Hello, everyone. I'm Chaplain Rod Gilliam with Joint Munitions Command. Today, I've been given the assignment of talking about religious freedoms versus religious extremism in the military. I often get asked, often by those of my own denomination, a Christian denomination, Chaplain Gilliam, how is it that you can uh, minister to so many people outside of our faith group in the Army? My answer to them is usually the same. I don't claim to be all things to all people. I have a particular worldview. I have a theology that I believe in, and I have a way in which I worship God according to the dictates of my heart and conscience. However, I do believe in respect to all people, and I believe in things like the Constitution. The First Amendment tells us that Congress will make no laws respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The U.S. Constitution's First Amendment is the foundation for all of our religious freedom and all of the accommodations. It undergirds all U.S. policy to include DoD and the U.S. Army policy on religious accommodation. Army Regulation 165-1 is something that all chaplains adhere to. When we are asked to do a religious rite, we are either to perform or provide the religious services for those under the command that we serve. AR 165-1, Chapter 2 says, as a professional military religious leader, the chaplain must have the capability to perform or provide religious support that accommodates the soldier's right to the free exercise of religion and support resilient efforts to sustain soldiers, family members, and authorized civilians. I'll give you an example. My denomination is the Church of the Nazarene. It comes from a theological heritage and history that are likened to that of the Wesleyans and the Methodists. In my Protestant evangelical worldview and background as a religious leader of that denomination, I can't perform the same religious rites as a Catholic priest does for his Catholic adherents. Yet in my command, in every organization that I've been a part of, there are many Catholics within my group whose viewpoint of confession and the Eucharist celebration is far different than my view of how we do the Lord's Supper. Since I know that I cannot perform the rites a Catholic soldier or a Catholic civilian would need within my organization, I have to make sure that provision is made for them by knowing who those priests are on or off post that those within my organization can have access to. That pretty much tells you a difference between perform or provide. I also want to talk to you about the defense of religious liberty as a central reason for the existence of the United States Army. Many people don't know this, but did you know that the chaplain branch is the second oldest branch in the military, second only to the infantry? Religious freedom is so highly valued by our nation that accommodations are made for diverse religious expression in federal law and policy, where military service would otherwise require stricter uniformity. One of our laws is known as the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. This gives some specific instructions as to what commanders and those under authority can and cannot do based upon the religious requests of individuals within that organization. First of all, the government may substantially burden a person's exercise of religion only if it demonstrates that application of the burden to the person is in furtherance of a compelling government interest and is the least restrictive means of furthering that compelling government interest. I'll give you an example. In one of my deployments downrange, well, in all of them actually, We had different high holy Christian days like Christmas and Easter. Those are special days in the Christian calendar year, and ones in which we celebrate in a variety of ways, and ones in which the Christians within my command, my organization, many of them would want to celebrate even while deployed. However, we had a real world mission going on in which there was an external threat that had to be dealt with. And so many of the war fighters in our group, the infantry and so on, that had to go outside of the wire, had to go on days of our high holy days like Christmas and Easter. As chaplains, we had to be very adaptable to those in meeting their religious needs that might not fit within our calendar, but we still made provision for. That would be one example where a commander has the right, in the furtherance of a compelling government interest, to forestall that religious right until such a time as they could come and worship with us again. It does say then, secondly, in the least restrictive means. So in our case, those soldiers were allowed to practice. It might not have been on the time that we set or preferred as chaplains, but in the interest of the mission, we were able to accommodate them shortly thereafter. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act can apply to religious practices, religious worship, observances, religious expression and speech, abstention from activities that violates one's religious belief, and daily activities and interaction in which our religious faiths are affected. Religious liberty is essential to who we are as Americans. Command policies and climates that guarantee and protect religious liberties include the accommodation of sincere religious practices that support the Army in critical ways. First of all, a sincere religious practice, believe it or not, enhances mission accomplishment. Several years ago, Headquarters Department of the Army G1 did a secular-based study, secular meaning they kept the chaplains out of this study, and they asked themselves the question in this sociological research experiment: what type of soldiers are the most resilient that are coming out of multiple combats? And after extensive research, it was discovered that those with strong faiths and strong families were the ones who proved to be quantitatively and qualitatively the most resilient. With this kind of research in the background, I can confidently say to any commander that those with under their command that get to exercise their religious belief, it is shown that it actually enhances mission accomplishment. The free exercise of religion and religious liberty is essential to and it supports the Army's mission of sustaining soldier readiness. It builds ethical and moral strength, and it sustains motivation to meet present and future challenges. Secondly, it's also been shown that those that are allowed to freely express their faith in a respectful manner and worship in the way that satisfies the dictates of their heart and conscience, it sustains a positive command climate. The free exercise of religion and religious liberty supports the mission enhancing benefit of positive command climates that encourage respect, tolerance, and ample opportunity for expression or the abstention of religion and worship. And lastly, this is an important value in the Army. It fosters respect. Chaplains and religious affairs specialists advise the command on all echelons of religious freedom, and they provide religious leadership facilitating vigilant respect, support, and awareness of the religious freedom of all soldiers and civilians to practice or not practice a religion including the responsible exercises of those freedoms. According to the DoD's religious accommodation policy found in DoDI 1300-17, it says the DoD places a high value on the rights of members of the military services to observe the tenets of their respective religion or to observe no religion at all. Further, in Army Regulation 600-20, it says that the Army places a high value on the rights of its soldiers to observe tenets of their respective religion or to observe no religion at all while protecting the civil liberties of its personnel to the greatest extent possible, consistent with all military requirements. These are just some of the laws that we have that undergird all of our rights as Americans for religious freedom. Religious respect of those around us is essential to what makes America, America. Join with me as we celebrate the respect and the protections that are given to all of us as citizens in worshiping the God of our faith according to our heart and our conscience. I'm Chaplain Rod Gilliam with Joint Munitions Command. Thank you for this time, and please come see me if you ever have any other questions on religious liberty.